Kira Brooks was putting on her wedding dress when she heard her billionaire fiancé's voice through the hotel wall, bragging to his groomsmen about their upcoming marriage. "She's perfect PR," Preston Cole laughed. "Smart, successful, and black. Exactly what I need to make everyone forget about the discrimination lawsuits." For 2 years, Kira had believed Preston loved her brilliant legal mind and fierce ambition. Instead, she was discovering she was nothing more than window dressing designed to rehabilitate his racist reputation. Standing in her custom Vera Wang gown with 500 guests waiting downstairs and 3 TV crews broadcasting their fairy tale romance, Kira had a choice. Go through with the wedding and live a lie, or play the recording she just made and destroy the most powerful tech mogul in Chicago in front of the entire world. What she did next would either save her soul or end her career. But Preston Cole was about to learn that some women refuse to be anyone's diversity hire. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's get into the story. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the bridal suite at the Four Seasons Chicago, casting golden light across the white roses and champagne flutes that had been perfectly arranged for the wedding of the year. In 6 hours, Zara Mitchell would walk down an aisle lined with 500 of Chicago's most powerful people to marry tech billionaire Preston Cole, the man she'd loved for 2 years and thought she'd spend forever with. Right now, she was hiding in the bathroom, her wedding dress hanging untouched on its custom hanger, while she tried to process what she'd just overheard through the thin walls of the hotel's adjoining suite. "Dude, I still can't believe you're actually going through with this," came the voice of Preston's best man, Tyler, from the groom's suite next door. "What's that supposed to mean?" Preston's familiar laugh drifted through the wall, but there was something in his tone that made Zara's stomach clench. "Come on, man. We all know why you're marrying her." Zara pressed her ear closer to the wall, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd come into the bathroom to escape the chaos of hair and makeup, to have a quiet moment before the biggest day of her life. She hadn't expected to eavesdrop on her fiancé's pre-wedding conversation. "Enlighten me," Preston said, his voice carrying that edge it got when he was about to say something he knew he shouldn't. "The discrimination lawsuit, the board breathing down your neck, the stock price tanking after that whole diversity scandal at Coltech," Tyler counted off on what Zara imagined were his fingers. "You needed a wife who'd make you look like a changed man. And you found the perfect candidate. Zara Mitchell, brilliant entertainment lawyer, gorgeous, successful, and most importantly, black. She's everything you need to rehabilitate your image." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. She gripped the marble countertop, her engagement ring catching the light as her hands trembled. "She's perfect PR," Preston continued, and Zara could hear the cruel satisfaction in his voice. "Smart enough to make me look intellectual, successful enough to make our marriage seem like a partnership of equals, and the right color to make everyone forget about the discrimination complaints." "Jesus, Preston," another voice chimed in, Marcus, Preston's college roommate. "When you put it like that, it sounds pretty calculated." "Everything in business is calculated, Marcus. Marriage is just another kind of merger." Zara's knees gave out, and she slid down the bathroom wall until she was sitting on the cold marble floor, her silk robe pooling around her. 2 years. 2 years of believing that Preston Cole had fallen in love with her quick wit and legal expertise. 2 years of thinking their meet-cute at a charity gala had been fate instead of strategy. But do you actually love her? Tyler asked, and Zara held her breath waiting for the answer. Preston was quiet for a moment, and in that silence, Zara's heart broke completely. I love what she does for me, he said finally. I love how the board stopped questioning my commitment to diversity after I started dating her. I love how the media went from calling me a racist to featuring us on magazine covers as Chicago's power couple. I love how our engagement announcement made Cole Tech stock jump 15%. That's not the same thing as loving her, Marcus pointed out. Love is a luxury I can't afford right now. I need a wife who makes me look good, and Zara checks every box. The groomsmen laughed, and the sound made Zara want to vomit. What about the prenup? Tyler asked. Did she sign it? Of course she signed it. She's not stupid. She knows this marriage comes with conditions. What kind of conditions? The usual. She maintains the perfect public image, attends the right events, says the right things to the media. In exchange, she gets access to my world and a very comfortable lifestyle. And if she doesn't play along, then she loses everything. I made sure my lawyers built enough escape clauses into that prenup to protect Cole Tech if this marriage ever becomes a liability. Zara pulled out her phone with shaking hands and hit record, capturing the rest of their conversation. She didn't know what she was going to do with it yet, but some instinct told her she needed evidence of what she was hearing. You know what's funny? Preston continued. She actually thinks I'm going to change. She keeps talking about how she wants to help me do better with diversity initiatives at the company. Like she's going to reform me with the power of love. The groomsmen laughed again, and Zara squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the sound. Poor girl has no idea she's just window dressing, Tyler said. Beautiful, intelligent window dressing, Preston corrected. The best kind. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted completely had been using you all along? How did you handle the betrayal? Let me know in the comments. Zara turned off the recording and sat in the silence of the bathroom, staring at her phone. 23 minutes of audio that would destroy the man she'd thought she loved. 23 minutes that proved their entire relationship had been a lie. A knock on the bathroom door made her jump. Zara, honey? Her maid of honor and best friend, Keisha, called softly. The photographer wants to get some shots of you in your robe before you put on the dress. Just a minute, Zara called back, surprised by how normal her voice sounded. She looked at herself in the mirror, hair in curlers, face half done with makeup, wearing a silk robe that cost more than most people's monthly rent. In a few hours, she was supposed to walk down the aisle to marry a man who saw her as nothing more than a strategic acquisition. The bathroom door opened, and Keisha peeked in. Girl, you look like you've seen a ghost. Wedding day nerves. Zara studied her best friend's face, wondering how much Keisha knew. They'd been friends since law school, had built their careers together, had shared every secret and struggle. If anyone would understand the impossible position Zara was in, it would be Keisha. Keisha, she said carefully, what would you do if you found out your fiancé had been lying to you about why he wanted to marry you? Keisha frowned and stepped fully into the bathroom, closing the door behind her. What kind of lying? The kind where your entire relationship is based on what you can do for his image instead of him actually loving you. Keisha's expression grew serious. Zara, what happened? What did you hear? So Zara told her. Everything. The overheard conversation, the cruel laughter, the casual way Preston had discussed using her as a prop in his corporate rehabilitation. She played parts of the recording, watching Keisha's face cycle through shock, anger, and protective fury. "That son of a bitch," Keisha whispered when the recording ended. "That calculating, manipulative son of a bitch. What do I do?" Zara asked, her voice small and broken. "What do you mean, what do you do? You leave. Right now. You walk out of this hotel and never look back. Keisha, there are 500 people downstairs. The media is outside. His entire board of directors is here. If I just disappear, if you just disappear, you'll be free of a man who never loved you." Zara stood up and paced the small bathroom. "It's not that simple. The prenup I signed, the contracts my law firm has with Cole Tech, if I humiliate him publicly, he'll destroy my career." "So you're going to marry him anyway? Knowing what you know?" "I don't know what I'm going to do." Keisha grabbed Zara's shoulders and looked her in the eyes. "Listen to me. I've watched you work 18-hour days to build your practice. I've seen you fight for clients who couldn't fight for themselves. I've watched you turn down easier opportunities because you wanted to earn everything on your own merit. You are not the kind of woman who settles for being someone's prop. But if I expose him, if you expose him, you save yourself from a lifetime of being married to a man who sees you as a business asset instead of a human being." Another knock on the door interrupted them. "Ladies," Preston's voice called through the door. "Everything okay in there? The photographer is getting antsy." Zara's blood turned to ice. After what she'd just heard, the sound of his voice made her skin crawl. "We're fine, baby," she called back, proud of how steady she sounded. "Just having a bridesmaid emergency. Give us 10 more minutes. Take your time, beautiful. I'll be waiting for you at the altar. Beautiful." He'd called her beautiful 1,000 times over the past 2 years, and she'd always felt her heart flutter. Now she understood it was just another manipulation, another way to keep her compliant and grateful. When his footsteps retreated, Keisha looked at her seriously. "You have a choice to make, and you need to make it now. You can put on that dress and go through with this wedding, knowing that you'll be living a lie for the rest of your marriage. Or you can find a way to get out of this with your dignity intact." "There's a third option," Zara said quietly. "What?" "I can put on that dress, walk down that aisle, and make sure Preston Cole gets exactly what he deserves." Keisha's eyes widened. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that 500 guests and a room full of media might be exactly the audience I need to tell the truth about who Preston Cole really is." "Zara, that's career suicide. He'll destroy you in the press, in court, everywhere. Maybe. Or maybe the truth is more powerful than his money." Zara pulled up the recording on her phone and stared at the play button. 23 minutes of evidence that would expose Preston as the calculating manipulator he really was. 23 minutes that would either free her or destroy her. "You're serious about this," Keisha said, reading her expression. "I'm serious about not spending the rest of my life as window dressing for a man who thinks my only value is what I can do for his image." "What do you need me to do?" Zara looked at her best friend and felt a surge of gratitude. "Help me get ready. If I'm going to destroy Preston Cole's world, I'm going to look absolutely stunning while I do it." An hour later, Zara stood in front of the full-length mirror, transformed. Her hair was perfectly styled in loose waves that cascaded over her shoulders. Her makeup was flawless, highlighting her natural beauty without overwhelming it. And her dress, the custom Vera Wang gown that had cost more than her first car, fit her like it had been crafted by angels. She looked like a woman who belonged in Preston's world, which was exactly the point. When she brought his empire crashing down, no one would be able to say she wasn't sophisticated enough or successful enough or beautiful enough to be his wife. They'd only be able to say that he hadn't been good enough for her. "You look incredible," Keisha said softly. "Are you sure about this?" Zara picked up her phone, where the recording was queued up and ready to play. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The media is going to have a field day." "Good. Let them." Preston Cole has been using the media to manipulate his image for years. It's time they heard the truth about who he really is. Another knock on the door made them both freeze. "Zara!" Preston's voice again, but this time he sounded impatient. "We need to start the processional in 15 minutes. "Coming, darling," Zara called back sweetly. She turned to Keisha one last time. "Whatever happens down there, promise me you'll remember that I chose this. I chose to fight back instead of being a victim." "I promise." "And Zara, I'm proud of you." Zara picked up her bouquet, white roses and baby's breath that symbolized new beginnings and pure love, neither of which would be part of this wedding, and walked toward the door. In 15 minutes, she would either be married to a man who had never loved her, or she would be the woman who brought down one of Chicago's most powerful tech moguls. Either way, Preston Cole was about to discover that Zara Mitchell was nobody's window dressing. What would you do if you discovered your wedding was based on lies? Would you go through with it, leave quietly, or fight back publicly? Share your thoughts below. As she walked down the hallway toward the elevator that would take her to the ballroom where 500 people waited, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in hours: power. Preston had spent 2 years underestimating her, thinking she was too grateful for his attention to question his motives. He was about to learn that the woman he dismissed as perfect PR was actually his worst nightmare. Someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to gain by telling the truth. The elevator doors opened, and Zara stepped inside, her reflection multiplied in the mirrored walls. One woman, one recording, and one chance to prove that some betrayals came with consequences that money couldn't fix. Preston Cole was about to have the worst day of his life, and Zara Mitchell was about to have the best. The ballroom of the Four Seasons Chicago was a vision of white and gold elegance, with 500 guests seated in perfect rows facing an altar draped in cascading flowers. The Chicago Tribune Society photographer positioned herself for the perfect shot, while 3 television crews prepared to broadcast the wedding of tech mogul Preston Cole to rising legal star Zara Mitchell. In the bridal suite's adjoining room, Preston straightened his bow tie one final time, completely unaware that his bride had spent the last hour planning his professional destruction. "You ready for this, brother?" Tyler clapped him on the shoulder. "Ready to secure my future?" "Absolutely." Preston's smile was confident, predatory. By tonight, the board will forget all about the discrimination lawsuits. Zara Mitchell Cole will be the perfect shield against any future diversity complaints. Down in the ballroom, Zara's mother, Dr. Angela Mitchell, sat in the front row wearing a dress she'd saved months to afford. She'd raised Zara as a single mother after her husband died, working double shifts as a nurse to put her daughter through law school. Today was supposed to be the culmination of everything they'd sacrificed for. "She's so beautiful," Angela whispered to her sister, tears of pride in her eyes. "I just wish her father could see her now." 3 rows back, Cole Tech's board of directors sat in expensive suits, checking their phones and discussing quarterly projections in hushed tones. To them, this wedding was a corporate event, a public relations coup that would restore their company's tarnished reputation. None of them knew that the bride was carrying evidence that could destroy everything they'd built. The wedding planner bustled around making final arrangements, completely oblivious to the fact that her perfect day was about to become Chicago's most notorious wedding disaster. The string quartet began playing, signaling that the processional was about to begin. In the bridal suite, Zara stood at the window overlooking Michigan Avenue, watching the media vans line the street below. Channel 7, Channel 5, the Tribune, the Sun-Times. Everyone wanted to cover the fairy tale romance between the tech billionaire and the brilliant lawyer who'd supposedly changed his heart. "It's time," Keisha said softly, straightening Zara's veil. "How do I look?" "Like a woman about to change the world." Zara checked her phone one more time. The recording was ready, 23 minutes of Preston's casual cruelty queued up on her Bluetooth speaker. All she had to do was press play when the moment was right. The elevator ride to the ballroom felt endless. Keisha held her hand, offering silent support, while the wedding planner chattered nervously about timing and photo opportunities. "Remember," the planner said as they reached the ballroom level, "slow, measured steps. Smile for the cameras. This is your moment to shine." "Yes," Zara said quietly. "It certainly is." The processional music began, and the ballroom doors opened. 500 faces turned toward Zara as she appeared in the doorway, a vision in white silk and lace. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks, and a collective sigh of appreciation went up from the crowd. At the altar, Preston's face lit up with what looked like genuine joy. For a moment, Zara almost wavered. He looked so handsome in his tuxedo, so happy to see her. If she didn't know better, she might believe he actually loved her. But she did know better. As Zara began her walk down the aisle, her mind flashed back to moments from their relationship that now took on sinister new meaning. The way Preston had pushed for them to be photographed together at charity events. How he'd insisted she attend Cole Tech board meetings as his advisor. The carefully orchestrated interviews about their modern love story that had appeared in Forbes and Fortune. Every step toward the altar was a step toward the truth. Halfway down the aisle, Zara made eye contact with her mother, who was beaming with pride. Angela had worked so hard to give her daughter every opportunity, believing that education and determination could overcome any obstacle. What would she think when she learned that her daughter's fairy tale romance was actually a calculated business arrangement? Preston stepped forward to meet her at the altar, taking her hand with what the cameras would capture as tender devotion. "You look absolutely breathtaking," he whispered, and for the first time, Zara heard the lie in his voice. "Thank you," she whispered back. "You have no idea what's about to happen." Something flickered in Preston's eyes. Confusion, maybe concern, but the officiant was already beginning the ceremony. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Thompson intoned, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Preston Cole and Zara Mitchell in holy matrimony." The crowd settled into expectant silence. This was supposed to be the moment when two people pledged their eternal love in front of God and witnesses. Instead, it was about to become something else entirely. Marriage, the Reverend continued, is built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. It requires both partners to be vulnerable with each other, to share their true selves without pretense or deception. Zara almost laughed at the irony. Trust, honesty, vulnerability, none of which existed in her relationship with Preston. Before we proceed with the vows, Reverend Thompson said, I'd like to invite the bride and groom to share what brought them together, what made them know they wanted to spend their lives as partners. This wasn't part of the original ceremony plan, but Preston stepped forward smoothly, clearly comfortable with the spotlight. When I first met Zara, he said, his voice carrying easily across the ballroom, I knew she was special. Brilliant, beautiful, successful. Everything a man could want in a partner. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Several board members nodded with satisfaction. She challenged me to be better, Preston continued, his hand squeezing Zara's. To think more deeply about diversity and inclusion, to consider perspectives I'd never considered before. The words were perfectly crafted, designed to hit every note the media and the board wanted to hear. Zara realized this impromptu speech was probably planned, another piece of Preston's carefully orchestrated image rehabilitation. Zara makes me want to be the kind of man who deserves her love, Preston concluded, and the crowd erupted in gentle applause. Now it was Zara's turn. 500 people looked at her expectantly, cameras rolling, photographers poised to capture her declaration of love. Instead, she pulled out her phone. Actually, she said, her voice clear and strong, I think there's something you all should hear before we continue. Preston's face went white. Zara, what are you doing? I'm sharing what brought us together too, she said sweetly. Though I think my version might be a little different from yours. She pressed play on the recording, and Preston's voice filled the ballroom through the chapel's sound system. She's perfect PR. Smart enough to make me look intellectual, successful enough to make our marriage seem like a partnership of equals, and the right color to make everyone forget about the discrimination complaints. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Gasps echoed through the ballroom, followed by a buzz of shocked whispers. Camera operators scrambled to get better angles, while photographers snapped furiously. Preston lunged for Zara's phone, but she stepped back smoothly, keeping the recording playing. I love what she does for me, Preston's recorded voice continued. I love how the board stopped questioning my commitment to diversity after I started dating her. I love how the media went from calling me a racist to featuring us on magazine covers as Chicago's power couple. Turn it off, Preston hissed, but his voice was drowned out by the recording and the growing chaos in the ballroom. Love is a luxury I can't afford right now. I need a wife who makes me look good, and Zara checks every box. Dr. Angela Mitchell stood up in the front row, her face a mask of fury and heartbreak. You used my daughter? She's just window dressing, Tyler's voice chimed in from the recording. Beautiful, intelligent window dressing. The best kind, Preston's recorded voice agreed. Have you ever witnessed someone get exposed for their true character in a public setting? How did people react? Tell me about it in the comments. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Board members were shouting at each other, trying to figure out damage control. Guests were pulling out their phones to record the disaster unfolding before them. Media personnel were frantically calling their newsrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, Zara said, her voice cutting through the noise, I present to you the real Preston Cole, a man who saw marriage not as a partnership of love, but as a business merger designed to rehabilitate his image after multiple discrimination lawsuits. Preston grabbed her arm. "You're making a huge mistake. Think about your career, your firm's contracts with Cole Tech." "Are you threatening me?" Zara pulled away from him. "In front of 500 witnesses and 3 television crews? I'm trying to save you from destroying your own life." "No, Preston. You're trying to save yourself from the consequences of your actions." Reverend Thompson stepped forward, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. "Perhaps we should pause the ceremony." "There is no ceremony," Zara announced. "There is no wedding. There is only a woman who almost made the mistake of marrying a man who never loved her." She turned to face the crowd, every camera in the room focused on her. "My name is Zara Mitchell," she said, her voice steady and strong. "I am an entertainment lawyer who has spent the last 5 years building a practice that represents artists and creators. I thought I was marrying a man who loved me for my mind, my ambition, and my heart." She gestured toward Preston, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "Instead, I was about to marry a man who saw me as a prop in his corporate image rehabilitation. A man who laughed with his friends about how perfectly I fit the requirements for making him look progressive and inclusive." Several Cole Tech board members were already heading for the exits, clearly recognizing a PR disaster when they saw one. "Preston Cole doesn't need a wife," Zara continued. "He needs a therapist, a PR firm, and some serious reflection on why he thinks he can treat human beings like business assets." "Zara, please," Preston said desperately. "Can we discuss this privately?" "We had 2 years to discuss things privately. You chose to spend that time lying to me about your motives for this relationship." Dr. Mitchell pushed through the crowd to reach the altar. "Baby, I am so proud of you," she said, embracing her daughter. "No man, no matter how rich, is worth sacrificing your dignity." The media was having a field day. Reporters were already crafting headlines. "Tech mogul's wedding day disaster. Bride exposes groom's racist motivations. The wedding that destroyed a billionaire." "This is far from over," Preston said quietly, his public mask slipping to reveal the cold businessman underneath. "You have no idea what you've just done to yourself." "Actually, I know exactly what I've done," Zara replied. "I've saved myself from a lifetime of being married to a man who sees me as a diversity hire instead of a human being." She turned to the crowd one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to what was supposed to be my wedding. Instead, you've witnessed something much more important: a woman choosing self-respect over security, truth over convenience, and dignity over dollars." The applause started slowly, with Dr. Mitchell and Keisha, then spread through the crowd as people realized they were witnessing something unprecedented: a bride taking control of her own narrative instead of being a victim of manipulation. But Zara knew the real battle was just beginning. Preston Cole had billions of dollars, a team of lawyers, and a reputation for destroying anyone who crossed him. She just declared war on one of the most powerful men in Chicago. As she walked back down the aisle, not as a bride, but as a woman who'd chosen herself over a lie, Zara felt something she hadn't experienced in 2 years of dating Preston Cole. She felt free. But freedom, she was about to learn, came with a price that Preston would make sure she paid. The war began the next morning. Zara woke up in her mother's house on the South Side, surrounded by the remnants of her wedding dress and a stack of newspapers that painted her as everything from a hero to a gold-digging opportunist who'd staged the whole thing for attention. Bride's revenge. Tech mogul exposed at altar, screamed the Tribune's front page, with a photo of Zara's triumphant face as she played the recording. Wedding day ambush. Was Zara Mitchell the real manipulator? Countered the Wall Street Journal, clearly influenced by Preston's damage control team. Her phone had been ringing non-stop since 6 a.m. Reporters, clients, other lawyers, even talent agents wanting to represent her for the inevitable book and movie deals. But the call that made her blood run cold came at 8:30 a.m. from her law partner, David Chen. "Zara, we need to talk. Now." An hour later, she sat in the conference room of Mitchell & Chen Entertainment Law, facing her business partner across a table covered with legal documents that would change her life forever. "Cole Tech is pulling all their contracts," David said without preamble. "Every deal, every retainer, every future project. They're claiming breach of fiduciary duty and demanding we return all fees paid in the last 6 months. That's $3 million in revenue," Zara said quietly. $3.4 million, to be exact. Money we've already spent on staff, overhead, and that new office space. Zara studied David's face, looking for signs of the friendship they'd built over 5 years of partnership. Instead, she saw the cold calculation of a man protecting his business interests. "David, you know Preston's claims are baseless. There was no fiduciary duty between his personal relationship with me and our firm's business relationship with his company. Maybe not legally, but practically? Zara, half our client base thinks you manipulated a billionaire into proposing just so you could humiliate him publicly. The other half thinks you're a hero, but heroes don't pay legal bills. So what are you saying?" David slid a document across the table. "I'm saying you need to decide what's more important, your pride or your career." Zara looked down at the papers. A dissolution agreement that would end their partnership, with David buying out her share of the firm for significantly less than it was worth. "You want me to sell my half of the business we built together? I want us both to survive this. Cole Tech isn't just coming after our contracts. They're systematically targeting every client we represent. Suddenly, streaming services are finding budget concerns with projects our clients are attached to. Record labels are restructuring deals we negotiated. It's corporate warfare, Zara, and you fired the first shot. I exposed the truth about a man who was using me as a prop. And now he's using his billions to destroy everything you've worked for." Before Zara could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. You're going to want to see this. A friend." The email contained a link to a private video that made Zara's stomach drop. It was security footage from the hotel the night before the wedding, showing her meeting with a man in an expensive suit who handed her an envelope. Except it wasn't real. The man was an actor, the envelope was digitally inserted, and the whole thing was designed to look like Zara had been paid to sabotage her own wedding. "They're framing you," David said, reading over her shoulder. "Preston's team is creating a narrative that you were hired by his business rivals to destroy him publicly. This is fake. Completely fabricated. Can you prove it? The metadata, the digital forensics. Will take weeks to analyze, and by then the story will be everywhere. Zara, Preston Cole doesn't just want to destroy your business. He wants to destroy your credibility, your reputation, your entire life." Zara stared at the fake video, recognizing the sophisticated manipulation of someone with unlimited resources and no moral boundaries. He's not going to stop, she realized. Even if I disappear, even if I never practice law again, he's going to keep coming after me because I made him look weak in front of the people whose respect he needs. So what do you do? Before Zara could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. Ms. Mitchell? This is Jennifer Walsh from 60 Minutes. I was wondering if you'd be interested in telling your side of the story. Have you ever had to choose between fighting back against someone more powerful than you or accepting defeat to protect what you had left? What did you decide? Share your experience below. 2 hours later, Zara sat across from Jennifer Walsh in a downtown Chicago studio, makeup artists and lighting technicians preparing for what would become the most watched interview in 60 Minutes history. Are you sure about this? Keisha asked, squeezing her friend's hand. Once this airs, there's no going back. There's already no going back, Zara replied. Preston made sure of that when he decided to wage war instead of just letting me walk away. Jennifer Walsh was a veteran journalist who'd taken down senators and CEOs with equal precision. She studied Zara with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Ms. Mitchell, let's start with the obvious question. Did you plan to humiliate Preston Cole at your wedding? No. I planned to marry him. Right up until the moment I overheard him telling his groomsmen that I was nothing more than a PR solution to his diversity problem. You recorded that conversation. Some people are saying that shows premeditation. I recorded it because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. When someone you love starts talking about you like you're a business asset instead of a human being, you want evidence that it really happened. Walk me through what you heard. Zara took a deep breath and began recounting the overheard conversation, her voice steady despite the pain of reliving Preston's betrayal. The full recording would be played during the broadcast, but her personal account of how it felt to hear those words gave them devastating context. Preston said you were perfect PR because you're black. How did that make you feel? It made me realize that every moment of our relationship had been calculated. Every public appearance, every interview, every photograph. I wasn't his girlfriend or his fiancé. I was his diversity prop. But you benefited from the relationship too. Expensive clothes, exclusive events, a lifestyle most people only dream of. I never asked for any of that. I make my own money, Ms. Walsh. I built my own career. What I wanted from Preston was what any woman wants from the man she loves. Genuine affection, respect, partnership. What I got was a performance designed to rehabilitate his image. The interview continued for 2 hours, with Jennifer Walsh asking every hard question Preston's team could possibly raise. By the end, Zara felt emotionally drained but strangely liberated. For the first time since the wedding disaster, she'd been able to tell her complete story without interruption or manipulation. One final question, Jennifer said as they wrapped up. Do you regret exposing Preston at the altar? Some people are saying you could have handled this privately. Ms. Walsh, I spent 2 years being private about Preston's casual racism, his dismissive attitude toward his employees, his belief that money could solve any problem including basic human decency. Privacy gave him power over me. The truth set me free. Even if that truth costs you your career? Especially then. What good is a career built on lies? The interview aired 3 days later to an audience of 12 million people. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Hashtag Zara Mitchell became the top trending topic on social media, with women sharing their own stories of being used as props in relationships or careers. Entertainment lawyers reached out offering partnership opportunities. Civil rights organizations invited her to speak at their events. More importantly, 3 more women came forward with stories about Preston Cole. Employees who'd been fired for refusing his advances, business partners who'd been cheated out of deals, other women who'd been used and discarded when they were no longer useful to his image. The investigation that followed revealed a pattern of behavior that went far beyond casual racism. Preston Cole had built his empire on exploitation, manipulation, and the systematic silencing of anyone who threatened his carefully crafted public persona. 6 months later, Zara stood in her new office overlooking Lake Michigan, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as protesters gathered outside Cole Tech's headquarters for the 3rd time that week. The company's stock had fallen 70%, 3 board members had resigned, and Preston himself was facing multiple lawsuits for discrimination, sexual harassment, and business fraud. Any regrets? David Chen asked from the doorway. He'd dissolved their partnership as planned, but they'd remained friends, and he'd been one of her first clients when she opened her solo practice. About exposing Preston? Never. Zara turned from the window to face her former partner. About believing his lies for 2 years? Every day. You know he's still trying to destroy you, right? The private investigators, the lawsuits, the social media campaigns. Let him try. The truth is more powerful than his money, and I have something he'll never have. What's that? People who genuinely care about me, not what I can do for them. As if summoned by her words, Keisha appeared in the doorway carrying coffee and a stack of newspapers. Good news and bad news, she announced. The good news is that Preston's latest lawsuit against you was thrown out of court. The bad news is that he's announced his engagement to a 23-year-old model who he met at a charity gala last month. How long did it take him to find my replacement? 3 weeks. Apparently, she's even more perfect PR than you were, young, beautiful, completely naive about what she's getting into. Zara felt a pang of sympathy for the young woman who was about to make the same mistake she had. Should we warn her? We tried. Her publicist blocked our calls. Then she'll have to learn the hard way, like I did. David picked up one of the newspapers Keisha had brought. Speaking of learning the hard way, did you see the Forbes article about Cole Tech's financial troubles? I saw it. Turns out when your entire business model is based on exploitation and intimidation, it doesn't survive much public scrutiny. The article says Preston's looking for buyers. Might have to sell the company just to cover his legal bills. Zara smiled. Karma's a beautiful thing. Her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Normally, she'd let it go to voicemail, but something made her answer. Zara Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, this is Rebecca Santos from the Department of Justice. We're investigating Cole Tech for potential civil rights violations, and we'd like to speak with you about your experiences with Preston Cole. Zara's pulse quickened. A federal investigation could mean criminal charges, not just civil lawsuits. I'd be happy to cooperate. Excellent. Could you come in next week? We have some questions about the recording you played at your wedding, and we'd like to discuss what you know about Mr. Cole's business practices." After hanging up, Zara looked at her friends. Keisha, who'd stood by her through everything, and David, who'd chosen their friendship over business convenience after all. "The DOJ wants to interview me about Preston." "Criminal charges?" David asked. "Sounds like it." Keisha grinned. "I hope they throw the book at him." "They probably will." Turns out the wedding recording was just the tip of the iceberg. When people started digging into Preston's business practices, they found decades of discrimination, fraud, and intimidation. Zara walked back to the window, looking out at the city where she'd built her career, lost her illusions, and found her strength. In the distance, she could see the Cole Tech building, where Preston was probably in another crisis meeting, trying to figure out how to survive the consequences of his own actions. "You know what the ironic thing is," she said to her friends. "Preston was right about one thing. I did change his life. Just not in the way he expected." "How so?" "He thought marrying me would rehabilitate his image and secure his empire. Instead, I exposed him for who he really was and helped bring down everything he'd built on lies." "Poetic justice," Keisha said. "The best kind." 1 year later, Zara stood at the altar of a small church on the south side, wearing a simple white dress that she'd bought with her own money. This time, the groom waiting for her was Marcus Williams, a civil rights attorney who'd reached out after seeing her 60 Minutes interview and had spent months proving that his interest in her was based on genuine admiration for her courage and principles. This time, there were no cameras, no media circus, no billionaire board members. Just family, real friends, and a man who loved her for exactly who she was. "Ready?" Dr. Mitchell asked, adjusting her daughter's veil. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." As they walked toward the altar where Marcus waited with tears of joy in his eyes, Zara thought about the journey that had brought her here. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed her had actually saved her from a lifetime of being someone else's prop. Preston Cole was in federal prison, serving 5 years for tax evasion and civil rights violations. Cole Tech had been sold to a company that immediately implemented the diversity and inclusion programs Preston had spent years resisting. And Zara had built a new law practice that specialized in representing people who'd been exploited by powerful corporations. Do you, Zara Mitchell, take Marcus Williams to be your husband, to love and cherish, in good times and bad, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live? "I do," Zara said, meaning it completely. "By the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride." As Marcus kissed her with genuine love and tenderness, Zara heard the small crowd of family and friends erupting in cheers. Real cheers, from people who cared about her happiness instead of her publicity value. What do you think makes a relationship authentic versus transactional? How can you tell when someone loves you for who you are versus what you can do for them? Share your thoughts in the comments. Later, at the reception in her mother's backyard, Zara found herself surrounded by the people who mattered most. Her mother, glowing with pride. Keisha, now the maid of honor at a wedding that was actually worth celebrating. David, who'd become one of her closest friends after choosing loyalty over convenience. Any regrets about the Preston situation now? Marcus asked as they danced to their first song as husband and wife. Only that it took me so long to see who he really was. But if I hadn't gone through all that, I never would have met you. Everything happens for a reason. Do you really believe that? I believe that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best things. Your strength in exposing Preston showed me the kind of woman I wanted to spend my life with. Zara looked around at the simple, joyful celebration. String lights in the trees, her mother's homemade cake, music playing from a borrowed speaker, and realized this was what love actually looked like. Not performative, not calculated, not designed to impress anyone else. Just real. I love you, Marcus Williams. I love you too, Zara Mitchell Williams. As they danced under the stars, Zara thought about the naive woman who'd almost married Preston Cole for all the wrong reasons. That woman had believed that love meant expensive gifts and exclusive access and being chosen by someone powerful. This woman knew that love meant being seen, being valued, and being chosen by someone who understood that her worth had nothing to do with what she could do for his image. Some love stories began with betrayal and ended with truth. Some wedding days were disasters that led to authentic happiness. And sometimes, the worst thing that could happen to you was exactly what needed to happen to save you from a life that would have slowly destroyed your soul. Preston Cole had thought he was using Zara Mitchell as window dressing for his empire. Instead, she'd used his betrayal as the foundation for building something much more valuable. A life based on truth, dignity, and love that didn't require her to be anyone other than exactly who she was. That, Zara thought as she danced with her husband under the Chicago stars, was the best revenge of all.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.